making. This is assignment 3 and we are group 8 presenting. Our research topic is movie 2001 A Space Odyssey.
2001 Space Odyssey. 2001 Space Odyssey is a 1968 British-American epic science fiction film produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick. The screenplay was written by Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke and was inspired by Clarke's 1951 short story, The Sentinel. Every masterpiece needs its master. This master was Kubrick, director. Stanley Kubrick was a genius, but not an academic one. He struggled in school and failed multiple standards. But his life took a turn when his father gifted him a Polaroid. He started taking amazing photos and he soon got attention of many magazines. And slowly, started getting offered documentaries. He started doing low budget documentary in which he had to adapt and learn different skills like lighting, which came in use when he started directing. While in the documentary industry, he found out that there was more money in the film industry and therefore started making movies. But the movie which put him on the map was Spartacus. After Spartacus, he did big budget movies like 2001 A Space Odyssey and Shining. Unlike other directors, Kubrick was not only good in one genre but all. He made a dramatic picture, Spartacus. In 2001, Space Odyssey is regarded as the best sci-fi film, and he even tackled the nuclear conflict by the movie Doctor Strangelove. He was a perfectionist and famous for his controlling behavior. He was a painter and he painted each and every one of his frames. Even the movie's title has its meaning. For example, 2001 is the year where the second monolith was discovered. A space is where the entire movie takes place, and it's regarding the space. And Odyssey. Odyssey is the Greek tale which the movie takes inspiration from. Odyssey is a tale of Odysseus who, after the Trojan War, has to go back to his wife and son. The journey's length is 10 years, in which he encounters different creatures, animals, gods, etc. In the entire journey, he uses his wits to overcome all. This movie takes inspiration from this tale and is shown in different parts of the movie, especially in the third part where portrays the role of Osiris and Hal portrays the roles of Cyclops, in which, like in the tale, when Osiris met Cyclops, Cyclops killed his crew, but Osiris survived. The same way in the movie, the Hal kills Dave's crew, but Dave survives.
Since the movie is also based on the book Thus Spake Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, we sense that it is also related to Zoroastrian mythology, as Zarathustra is none other than Zoroaster, the founder of Zoroastrianism, who gave the 17 hymns. Inspired from those hymns, Friedrich developed these ideologies for the book, namely eternal recurrence of the same, which means repetition of all existence and energy. The parable of madmen, according to which, since we have killed God, we have to get holy enough as God to wash that sin. And ultimately, the prophecy of Ubermensch or superior man, which is an ultimate goal for humanity. Several parts of the movie can be explained as the application of these ideologies, as at the end, the birth of the Star Kid is for humanity reaching the goal of Ubermensch. The author and philosopher Friedrich too rejected the Christian morals of against the sin, replacing it by Buddhist ideology of against suffering, which surely explains all the violence of the movie, and Star Kid replacing the old-time astronaut Dave, replacing its suffering. Plot of the movie is taken from A.C. Clarke's book, The Sentinel, who himself refers the Sentinel as a fruit and 2001 A Space Odyssey as a whole-grown tree. So before we get on the details of the movie, let's have a quick summary by Piyush.
So the movie starts with the dawn of the myth. In this part, a group of prehistoric ape men are shown struggling to eat. One morning, as apes get up, they discover a mysterious black rectangular slab standing in front of them, a monolith. Ape touches the monolith, and soon in the next scene, they get idea to use bone as weapon to kill rival for food and protection. Then we see Chief Ape Man throwing the bone in air, and the first part ends with iconic match cut. The second part begins as the bone converts to spacecraft. In this part, we are introduced to Dr. Haywood Floyd, an American scientist who is traveling to moon. He stops at space station and continues his journey to the moon base. He reminds his colleagues to work secretly as they found a monolith in crater. As Floyd approaches towards monolith and touches it, it emits high daunting sound to Jupiter. Then we move to movie's third part titled Jupiter Mission 18 months later. We are introduced to two astronauts, Frank and Dave. They are working with supercomputer HAL. Dave and Frank uncovers Hal is not working properly, so they secretly plan to shut him down and continue mission on their own. But Hal finds out and kills Dave and locks Dave out of spacecraft. This forces Dave to shut Hal down. Finally, we reach to the fourth section of movie titled Jupiter and Beyond Infinite. Dave arrives in Jupiter's orbit, where he discovers a monolith floating in space. After a while, we find Dave traveling to some different dimension through time and space. He ends up in a room which is decorated with Baroque furniture and has glowing floors. As the scene moves forward, we find Dave dying in bed when he sees monolith standing in front of him. He tries to approach his finger towards it and gets converted into a Star Kid. In the last shot of film, we see Star Kid returning to Earth and the screen turns black. So now let's have detailed observation of each part. Part 1, Dawn of Man.
Scarcity of all sorts of resources is depicted, with a barren environment of few vegetation and a single small water body over which the ape men were entitled to fight. We too witnessed the ape men sleeping under the rock depression, so there was not even shelter, as they were not wise enough to build one. Next we see, in the scene where leopard was eating the dead zebra, there is a glaze in its eyes. Although it's a common phenomenon for animals at night, interestingly, it was shown in the dusk time. So, here we can infer that the glaze in its eyes is to draw maximum of our attention to the leopard, the superior beast, who knew hunting. The actual dawn of man occurs with the appearance of the monolith during the dawn, indicating a new start. As the ape men touch the monolith out of curiosity, a high-pitched ominous sound starts, making us wonder that something bad is going to happen. Soon after we see the monolith, sun, and moon in alignment. This surely indicates monolith as a bridge to moon. As the next part, we reach moon. After touching the monolith, ape men evolved to grow smarter. This is shown by discovery of bone as tools or weapons. While killing of tapirs is also shown symbolically, transforming their food habit from herbivore to omnivore. Unlike the rival tribe, which were still on 4 feet, the evolved tribe stood erect and did not scream. Also, while discovering the bone, the man bangs the animal's skull triumphantly, as if leaving their earlier intelligence behind to enter a new stage of intelligence. Another fact visible throughout the movie is the increase of cruelty with growth of knowledge. As earlier, the men just scared each other away to claim on the water, but later, even after hitting the rival man, watching the first part, we were left wondering that are we going to see some aliens or the then typical concept of UFOs landing on Earth? Also, we wonder how it would be different if they choose to show the later version of men which resembles the current day humans.
The
I would
second
like
part of the movie, Moon Mission. The epic match cut. The second part begins as Bone changes to spaceship, as you see in the slide. This is the most famous graphic match cut of all times, which poetically compare the humble beginnings of mankind's weapon of that of modern times. Videophony. The girl in the screen is actually Kubrick's daughter, the director. Kubrick was so good at predicting things that really made us wonder how different it would have been if we had this type of technology by the time. Looks like a wheel, doesn't it? Structure of this space station is much similar to a cartwheel, which is considered as greatest invention and also a symbol of continuous progress. Technological progress. Grip shoe. Not able to walk easily shows even we had evolved so much but need a lot more to adapt to space. This can be noticed that the food plate and restroom signboards had instructions labeled for the use. This shows how in space we are like infants again, learning to walk, talk, and even use washroom in this new environment. Yes, buttonless clothes. If you closely observe the image, we get to see that the costumes are buttonless. Certainly it is the Kubrick thought. It is Kubrick thought would have thought that it would have been uh, after 35 years of the years of movie release. Multi-cuisine meals. Astronauts could only consume liquid diet in space too, serving with proper packing and a straw which prevents the liquid content in it to ooze out. It resembles an eye. Here's opening of this space station on the moon. The scene is captured in such a way that it resembles human eye. Or in the bird's view, it looks as if lotus is blooming. The touch. As fluid approaches and touches it, the monolith emits high-pitched sound, and there's a cut. Here we come to the next part of the movie, which Piyush will explain it to us.
The third part of movie. In this part, we are introduced to Dave, Frank, three scientists hibernating, and the show stealer supercomputer Hell. Interpretations. In spite of many things to interpret, the most important was Hell. Was most reliable, foolproof, and incapable of error. He was one of the best of that time. He, he too had emotional brain as he was working on scientist psychology who were hibernating. But he did not had control on his emotion, which can be seen by his action when he tries to kill all the crew just to protect himself. We also see arrogance and fear in this advanced computer. Observation. We observe vital things here. Technology has advanced so much with respect to moon mission. Here we can see advanced aircraft. Humans are more adaptive to space as jogging in normal shoe is just an easy task. Hot food is served while traveling. And most importantly, an emotional touch is given by supercomputer Hell. We also find that in this part humans were aware that there is some intelligent life outside Earth which is affecting them in some way. And they also had idea that it is linked with Jupiter. This we get to know from the video by Dr. Floyd, which Dave finds when he was shutting down Hell. In that video, the last words were, "The origin and purpose of Monolith is still a mystery." Now we move to the fourth part of movie.
Jupiter and Beyond Infinite. Key points that I observed. The movie focuses on conveying the message through emotions, use of various color schemes, actions, and emphasizes on expressions. Here, an example, a cut from the film where Dave then comes out of the parallel universe. The director has used a triadic double split color to show his mental transition from panic to rest, that is from red to yellow. Seven Angels of God. When Dave is traveling in parallel universe, the director has wisely chosen his color palette, depicting the patchwork of parallel universe. As in the image below, we can see streaks of light crashing towards us. Also, we notice seven star-like patterns floating above us, which were giving direction to Dave to reach his destiny. Noting this point, we can compare it to the theme mentioned in Bible, where God sends his seven sons to earth to direct humankind. Shattering of glass. It is very wisely shown as it acts as a grass breaker. Soon as middle-aged Dave bends to check the glass, we are forwarded to the old-aged Dave, who is on his deathbed. Here the interpretation is, the breaking of fine glass was also considered to be the escaping of Dave's soul, as the consecutive scene displays the transition of Dave into Starchild. In the finale scene, we see Dave on his deathbed. In his final minutes, we see Monolith flashing on screen. As Dave sees it, he involuntarily points his finger towards the monolith. This scene shows similarity to the picture Creation of Adam, where God makes us first human. Similarly, in the movie, we see very first star kid. An argument that we all came across. In parallel universe, we observe barren, lifeless, inhabited land as Dave enters the planet. While on landing, the room is well furnished with lighted flooring and very similar to the ones we find here, which can only be seen in royal palaces and cities. This is the question, how? These are few creative questions that we came across.
This movie succeeded in many aspects, one of them being technical aspects. For the first part of the film, they used projection to cast the background. And for the background to be projected, there needed to be photos. And therefore, these photos were taken. So the way they took photos was they had grids, the photographer and the Kubrick. And when photographer took the photo, he used to send it to Kubrick, and then Kubrick used to put his graph over the photo, and then used to give direction accordingly. For example, in this picture, he says that the left mountaintop should be more centralized, but he gives them accurate coordinates. So in the next picture, the photographer takes a more centralized photo. These photos were very necessary in the first part as the set was a tabletop set and which kept rotating, and they did not have the means to go and actually shoot in a desert. Model making. Model making was a very important part of this movie, as a lot of aircraft and scenery in this movie were models. They were extremely detailed and scientifically accurate. Therefore, the camera could go very close to that and still not lose any details. These models are actually very close to the current NASA models. And Few aspects in the movie have shown anti-gravity, in which a rotating set was used, as you can see on the right. It's extremely large and cost nearly $500,000 that time. This later similar sets were used by Christopher Nolan in his current movies, like Inception. Here we see why Kubrick was known as perfectionist. In this scene, there was a car commercial playing on the plane. Therefore, Kubrick actually sent a cast in a separate location to shoot a car commercial. This was the car and the crew which shot the commercial. This car was provided by Ford Motors and was actually made for the movie. It works as a actual car, but never was sold. This is how the famous scene in part 4 of the movie was taken. In this, a slit is kept in front of the camera and the camera is moved back and forth, and there's a colorful screen behind the slit which actually shows the colors which you wanted to show on the screen. And later, due to the movement of camera, an illusion is created, which can be seen in the next image. Yeah, this is the result of that process. The famous pen floating scene. In this scene, a pen is shown to be floating in anti-gravity, but in real life, it's just a pen which is stuck to a very, very clean glass. The glass is clean, therefore it can't be seen, and the glass is moved off camera, so the pen moves with it, giving the sense that pen is floating. In the long shot, the pen was actually hang from a nylon thread and therefore couldn't be seen. This here we see it Christopher Nolan trying to restore Kubrick's role. Christopher Nolan studies Kubrick's roles and tries to understand why he did what he did. Kubrick used to take multiple shots with different exposure levels to see what would fit him, and therefore a lot of reel was left after the movie. He used to take the best outcome by mismatching them, and then he used to shoot his final shot. Any masterpiece
Yeah,
has its flaws. Here are few of this movie.
there isn't a clear narrative and easy understanding that audience usually expect. Prolonged and slow scenes. Though the film is engaging and interesting, we feel blank at certain points. There's a lot of ambiguity and unpredictability which makes the audience restless and lose interest in the film. It is also a fact that during the premiere of the film, half of the crowd walked out of the theater in the middle of the film.
Saying that, but this movie is still very significant. Its visual appeal is still regarded as one of the best. It had world-class model making, and it showed a picture of future that was never seen before. It created curiosity. It created so much fear in the audience that they did not know what's going on or what will happen and what just happened. Audience were confused but interested at the same time. No other movie has even come close to getting this attention. Respecting viewers, this movie challenged the viewer's idea. It told them like they are so the viewer asked himself, could the future look like this? Could this possibly happen? The viewer was imagining the entire movie from his perspective. This movie is made in such a way that even though it's one movie, everyone who watches it thinks of the movie uniquely. Advanced technology, as I said, it showed future technology, and Kubrick, being a visionary, predicted a lot of things like video calling, spacewalking, fake gravity. As we see that when the space station rotates, it creates fake gravity, which is still used. And the film therefore is regarded as the best sci-fi film of all time. It is regarded as a timeless movie because no matter when you watch it, the movie is still amazing because in the past it gave a amazing interpretation of the future. In present, it still looks like a distant future, and maybe when we will achieve it, it will look like a past vision. Discussing certain topics. There were few topics in the movie which were extremely interested and curious and created curiosity in us. Few of them are
Lack of
here, like
lack of
lack of
sensitivity.
sensitivity.
So this part was spread all over in movie. It involved from apes killing the rival group chief just to show their dominance, or when Dave and Frank discovers malfunctioning of Hal and decided to shut him down. The action taken by Hal just to protect himself without discussing or thinking for second option by killing Frank, the three scientists hibernating who weren't involved in this plan, and also locking out Dave. These actions prove that how much we evolve or technology get advanced, some loop of emotional touch will always be left. The effect will be shown on decision making part. This dependency on technical and technological life is very harmful for humankind. Did monolith represent or had any identity?
Uh, Even though monolith is a big prominent part of the movie, it was not the same. First, director went through many different interpretations of monolith. One of them was a pyramid, one of them was a circular shape, but later they decided on a cuboid. First, they thought the cuboid would be transparent and it would display pictures and videos which would teach apes how to use their tools or how to use or how to evolve. But later director thought that that was a very naive idea and knew that they had to go for something more mysterious and more which would inspire more curiosity. Why was Dave chosen to be the star child? Was the only crew member who survived Hal. What if Hal killed Dave? What would have happened? Would have Monolith interacted with a computer? Or would have Monolith destroyed the ship? Dave survives Hal and shows that even though computers have progressed and are more intelligent than human can still survive.
Decision making. Some key decisions that were made in the movie. We see instance like decision that was made by maintaining the secrecy about the discovery of monolith. The decision of Hall to kill all the astronauts on board, which were in hibernation. Ultimately, story took a turn with decisions of Dave to disconnect Hall. Conclusion.
To conclude, the message of 2001 A Space Odyssey is that when time comes, humans have to evolve.
Well, I think the movie is more thought-provoking than conclusive.
Yeah, exactly. The scientific version of God is not personified. Rather, we see this ambiguous monolith, which could be said by God or aliens.
Well, whoever you may call it, humans are always dependent on this part to evolve, right?
Right, well, science, spirituality, human behavior, and whatnot. All we are left with is admiration for this movie. Thank you.